So we're talking about some very intimate topics, and with any intimate topic, there's going to be a couple of questions. So on our Facebook pages, we asked you what you wanted to know a little bit more about when it came to sex ed. Now we're going to pull up a few of those questions on my phone, and I'm going to do my best to answer them as scientifically and factually correctly as I can while I'm wearing this dress. So Alison asks, what is the true magnitude and shape of the clitoris? That is an excellent question. Now, believe it or not, the clitoris is actually pretty substantial when it comes to its size. Now, it may look pretty small from the outside, but it actually goes inside your body as well. Now, we're going to add a little bit of a picture here so you can kind of get a bit of a visual representation. It is substantially larger than a lot of people may think. But the thing is, just like we said before, every body is a little bit different. Your clitoris internally and externally may vary in size a little bit. It might vary in shape a little bit as well. But it is very important. I'm talking to you straight boys. Don't forget about the clitoris. Okay, let's see. So we have a question from Sarah, and Sarah asks, what is asexuality? Now here's the thing, asexuality is a completely valid sexual preference. It's totally fine. You shouldn't be telling people, regardless of their preference, be it asexual or otherwise, that they just haven't met the right person yet, or they just need to wait and find the right guy or the right girl. Not your place, and if anyone is doing that to you, regardless of how you identify, they should not be your friend, first and foremost. Very important thing. Now, asexuality, as I understand it, are people who are not necessarily into the concept of having sex, or they don't experience sexual attraction, or some of them may not. Because that's the thing, just like with gays or straights or bisexuals or lesbians or any other variation of sexual identity, it's different from person to person. So I know a lot of asexual people who will have sex, but because they want to as opposed to they feel they need to. And I know a lot of asexual people who are in romantic relationships who just aren't into the act of having sex, but because they love their partner, they will. But just like everything else, it is really different from person to person. If you do want to know a little bit more about asexuality or have a direct kind of definition, we're going to put a little link up here to a reputable site. They should be able to give you all of the answers that you need on that one, Sarah. Okay, here's one that's coming up a lot. This one's from a girl called Sylv, and she asks, should it hurt the first time? No is the answer. The concept of a hymen is a horrific thing. You are not meant to bleed your first time. It's not meant to hurt your first time. Both of those things are indicators that either you are not prepped to be taking the things that you are taking in. It's also kind of an indication that you're not quite there yet. If it does hurt when you're having sex with a regular partner, you might want to try a little bit more foreplay or a lot more lube. Never enough lube, honestly. But yeah, so I know a girl whose hymen broke on a bicycle. I used to ride horses, and there were a lot of girls who had very unexpected stains on their jodhpurs after going over a pretty high jump. Just like any other part of your body, the hymen can tear, the hymen can break. It is not necessarily intended to during the act of intercourse, but it can. It's something that you should probably be aware of if you do have a vagina. But that being said, no, it's not meant to break. It's not meant to hurt. If it does, then maybe sit down with your partner and have a little bit of a conversation about what's going on down there and try some new things if you are both comfortable with that. As always, consent is key, but just maybe try spicing it up a little bit, do something different, experiment a little bit, see what makes you feel better without having some pain in between you down there. Okay, we have another anatomy question. This one's from Angel. And Angel asks, is it common for people with penises to not be able to stand at attention? Now, believe it or not, it actually is a very, very common thing. I know it's that general movie trope of oh no, it's fine, it happens all the time, but it straight up does. I know a fair few people, myself included, who just sometimes aren't really in the mood, sometimes not really in the vibe, and I know a lot of people who have sex, people with penises, who don't necessarily need it to get up for it to be a fun time. An erect penis is not necessarily an indication of a person's attraction levels or horniness or pleasure, be it sexual or otherwise. Sometimes it just doesn't happen, and that's totally fine. As long as your partner is willing and consenting, or if you, a person with a penis, are having a good time, whether or not it's up or down, totally up to you. Just, if you are really worried about it, like, give it a minute, take a breath, have some water, have a chat, and then try again, see what happens. Also, if you do have erectile dysfunction issues, you can also go and speak to our friends at the Sexual Health Clinic at the Canberra Hospital. Wonderful. We have a question from Lee. Lee asks, is masturbation normal? Yes. Masturbation is normal not just for teenage boys, it's normal for everyone. Everyone. Now, I work with children, I'm not going to name any names, but I have worked with a few younger people who won't realize what the context socially of touching themselves is, but they will do it because it gives them a sense of pleasure. And again, that is completely fine. The only issue is when it is with younger children, you do need to have that conversation of like, this is something that you do in your room, not while you're watching The Wiggles. But masturbation is completely normal. It is totally fine. The only thing that is an issue is the stigmatization of it. There's the running joke that oh, you're a teenage boy, you're gonna go and have a wank, and it's in like movies and TV shows and in so many things. First thing, not a funny joke. Everyone does it, who cares? Second thing, it is not just teenage boys. You can be of pretty much any age, any gender, any sexual identity, any sexual preference, and you can masturbate to feel pleasure. It's not a bad thing inherently, but it is something you do need to be careful about. Be sure to use a bit of lube, go gentle, you don't want to be like chafing up or tearing anything down there. And also just generally talk to people about it first. Some people do get weirded out by it if you just start doing it in the bedroom. So we've got a question from Kay, and Kay asks, can a person with HIV have condomless sex without transmitting HIV to their partner? And the answer is yes. I've done a little bit of research. We've got this lovely study here that we're going to be having a little bit of a look at. So in 2016, there was a study in Europe called the Partner Study, and they found in over 54,000 acts of condomless sex with a HIV positive partner and a HIV negative partner, that there were 0 transmissions of HIV when the HIV positive partner had a UVL. Now, a UVL is an undetectable viral load. Essentially, this means that the virus is not being passed through the semen. So, according to this website, when a HIV positive person is on treatment, usually within 6 months, they can achieve a UVL. If they have a UVL for about 6 months, it means that they are incredibly likely to not transmit HIV to their partner at all. That being said, as I've said before, unless you have had that conversation with your partner and both of you are completely consenting and 100% keen, regardless of whether or not you have HIV or any STD or just anything at all, you should always be as safe as you can. Use PEP, use PrEP, wear condoms, do whatever you have to do to make sure that you both feel comfortable and that you both feel safe in everything that is going on. So, we've been getting these 2 questions a lot. They're by far the most asked questions that we have gotten, and as queer people, I'm sure you have been asked these questions yourself. How do gays have sex, and how do lesbians have sex? I'm gonna say something that's probably gonna piss you all off. Everyone's different, and it depends on who you're with. But this is the thing. Everyone really is different. Everyone's interests when it comes to sex, what people are into and what they're not quite into, they are unique to that person. The best thing that you can do is ask your sexual partner what they want to do, how they want to do it, and make sure that you are doing it in a safe and comfortable way for the both of you. But here's the thing, it can be a little bit more tricky than that. If you are freshly queer and you don't quite know what you're doing, you might not feel comfortable to be having these conversations. And one thing that I do definitely need to say when it comes to this is that porn is not real life. I know it may seem like it sometimes, and sure, some of it can get pretty steamy, but here's the thing. Porn is just like watching a movie in the cinema. It has been completely produced, it has been fully scripted, down to the movements, the camera angles, the lighting, the sound effects, the music, even the grunts that come out in some of them. Let me tell you, they are definitely in a script somewhere. And that's the thing. Porn is not a realistic depiction of what it is like to have sex. At least not for the most part. What that means is, if you are watching a porn and going, oh, this isn't what my sex life is like, that's because it's never going to be what your sex life is like unless you are a porn actor. In real life, sex is so many different things. It's sweaty, it can be messy and stinky and smelly, and it can make some very funny noises. Trust me, I've farted on far too many people to tell you otherwise. But that's the thing. Sex is different for everyone, because everyone in and of themselves is different. So again, my best advice is to sit down with a partner that you trust, especially if you are freshly queer and you're not quite sure what you're doing or how to do it. Sit down with a partner or a person or a queer friend or someone who you think might be able to help you, and have that conversation openly and honestly and without shame. Because if you are too scared to even talk about it, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. That being said, there are plenty of other things we can talk about, like tops and bottoms and sides and doms and subs and switches. But if you are curious about what you can do when it comes to gay or lesbian sex, then maybe watch a little bit of gay or lesbian sex, or try a little bit of gay and lesbian sex. But again, just make sure that you do it safely and responsibly with someone that you trust.